The new California Republic saw its humble beginnings in Fallout 1 as the tiny town of Shady Sands. You know, the one that got nuked in the TV show. 120 years later, the democratic NCR had become a major power. And to make
the whole world learn of our peaceful ways, by force,
the elite Recon Rangers were founded. Having dealt with Fanboy and Mr. House, the Rangers needed a new mission to not get wasted in Vegas. So, one man was sent on a recon mission all the way to the East Coast's Commonwealth. But of course, an NCR Veteran Ranger can't go on a mission without a large assortment of weapons. These ranged from an assault rifle to the riot shotgun, to the OPS fun Ranger Sequoia, which I'll just call the Big Iron, after the song. But where's the famed Anti-Materiel rifle? We'll get to that. First, however, I had to get a specific ammo type for the Big Iron, for which I had to go all the way over to the other side of the map. There I could take a boat ride to Far Harbor, since that was the only place where they sold that specific ammo type. I wouldn't be able to get the assault rifle's 5.56 ammo, save for a very select few traders way far away, who'd charge me an arm and a leg, while for the shotgun, I had to find about
16 times
as much ammo as I was finding to survive the scuffles of the wasteland. Along the way to Far Harbor, however, I came across a gaggle of raiders who were trying to rob, kill, maim, and enslave a group of locals. So I decided to help them out. That could only help the NCR's public relations campaign here. After clearing the raiders from the museum, Preston introduced himself to Lance Slinger. Lead Slinger. It's the best I got. Anyway, he and his crew had the bright idea to use power armor to kill the remaining raiders. But since I hailed from the West Coast, I didn't just magically know how to pilot the thing. So I had to get a little creative with getting off that roof, which I did by clambering over the church next door. Once I'd managed to successfully make it downstairs, I had to run down the street, completely out in the open, to shotgun the raiders to death, since I didn't want to use up all of my assault rifle's ammo immediately. But then, at the end of the street, a Deathclaw wanted to feast on my giblets.
Oh, shit!
So I grabbed the Big Iron. 8 shots later, I took the thing down, and did a totally sick pistol twirl afterwards.
wow.
After Preston reaffirmed that the Rangers are badass,
I'm just glad you on our side.
We gonna get along just fine.
I hit the road with 2 bullets left in the Big Iron. Just enough to put an end to Wolfgang and Simone for being a blight on society. With me now running seriously low on ammo, I hit the road once more, and decided to not get distracted again. Until I had to fight for my life, when I ran into a too quick to outrun Assaultron. Having survived that scuffle, it was a relatively uneventful journey towards the boat to Far Harbor. Once there, the local incompetent buffoons took like 10 minutes to kill a few frogs, and lost about half the town's population in the process. After looting up, I sold most of my belongings, bought every scrap of ammo for sale, and left Far Harbor with 354 bullets. The next order of business was to procure the Anti-Materiel rifle, for which I had to do a quest which was about 100 yards away from the docks.
Can't open it from this end.
So I entered the basement, used my high perception to see that things weren't right down there, and proceeded to grab a piece of spooky paper to start a scavenger hunt for the rifle. Though here, I came face to face with my second deathclaw. But this time, it was even more horny than normal. And very, very dead. My next clue led me to Diamond City, where I absolutely floored Piper to get in faster, and took a bunch of jobs to pay for my ammo, which included me needing to find Detective Nick. In the local bar, I was led to the rifle by another piece of magical paper. It directed me to a raider outpost near the CIT ruins, so I proceeded to book them all a one-way trip to the afterlife. When I neutralized the raider with a name, I grabbed the rifle, which was a piece of garbage.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
No, that simply won't do. Where's the nearest workbench? That's more like it. With the loadout complete, I went on a mission to free Detective Nick. A local gangster had taken over a subway tunnel to be closer to their spirit animal. The one of the rats they were. First, I quickly switched between the shotgun and assault rifle, which now had a drum mag, which I bought from Arturo in Diamond City for quite a hefty price. I was also a high enough level at this point to buy 5.56 ammo for it. Next, I proceeded to stealthily snipe the gangsters in the subway from the shadows. I was stealthier than the sneakiest stepdad, like a fly on the wall, like a Lego on the floor. Okay, maybe not that stealthy. The gun is so loud. Anyway, when I reached the end of the subway tunnel, I came across a vault door. So after once more striking from the shadows, I opened the door and was forced into a more aggressive style for dealing with my enemies. When I reached an open area once more, the Anti-Materiel rifle was coming back out again. For the last room, I rushed in with the assault rifle again, and saw something almost divine. Next, I put Dino to sleep, after which I rescued the detective, who had some splaining to do. Cause Nick looked a little different from what I was led to believe. But that would have to be for later. Right now, we had to battle our way out of the vault. And let me tell you, this riot shotgun was grand in there. Unarmored enemies at point blank range. Don't mind if I do. Eventually, we got to Lardy, the leader of these gangsters. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't in the mood for taking prisoners. I mean, where'd I keep them all? So... Back in Diamond City, I got paid for a job well done and sat down to hear Nick's story. He informed me of a faction called the Institute and their many crimes against the wasteland.
Those early model synths of theirs strip whole towns for parts, killing everything in their way. Then you got the newer models, good as human, infiltrate cities and pull strings from the shadows.
That's Enclave behavior. Who knows what they're planning to do? So I made it my top priority to neutralize them as a threat. As luck would have it, I now had a local detective to help me find their hidden base. So Nick and I ran over to Kellogg's house, a guy known to be working for the Institute.
Why don't you give it a try?
After failing to pick his lock, I got the key from the city's receptionist. I too wouldn't want to say no to this. Anyway, we entered Kellogg's house, confiscated his stuff for the glory of the NCR.
Your stolen goods are now forfeit.
Found out Kellogg was at Fort Hagen and hoofed it over there. Inside, I proceeded to send dozens upon dozens of Nick's brethren to the Great Surfer Farm upstate. Eventually, I got downstairs, and after dispatching a few insignificant obstacles that never even saw me coming, I donked the synth in the head so hard with a 50 caliber bullet that he flew through the air like a frisbee. After that, I mopped the last few synths up by somewhat aggressively walking towards them with murderous intent, and Control-Alt deleted them from existence. Having left a bunch of scrap in my wake, I met with Kellogg and gave him a chance to cooperate. But he didn't wanna play ball. So 4 shots with the Kellogg begun and the room was cleared. With Kellogg dead, I grabbed an electro embryo from his brain, left the building, and saw the Brotherhood of Steel arrive. Now, the NCR has some history with these guys, and most of it hasn't been very good. Especially knowing what the future holds.
Till you say you're mine.
And I also already kinda killed a few of them off earlier. Okay, so it seems that things are escalating a little bit. War with the Institute, war with the Brotherhood. I might need to think about establishing a more formal NCR presence here and start building an army soon. First, however, I went to Nick, who proposed that we went to the memory den in Good Neighbor to pull information regarding the Institute's location from Kellogg's brain. So after arriving in Good Neighbor, I immediately showed that watering hole who they were dealing with, and barged inside the memory den. Next, I went inside the memory launcher and discovered that the Institute can teleport in and out, and that scientist Virgil was hiding in the glowing sea. So I proceeded to make my way over there. Once there, I found a really good shotgun
Thank you!
that I wouldn't use, and got to hunting Deathclaws, rat scorpions, so many rat scorpions, and a few more Deathclaws, as if they were geckos. Eventually, I reached the center of the crater, where I left the Children of Atom live for once. JK, who do you think I am? I haven't forgotten about their origin, and I certainly don't trust their whole worshipping of nukes shtick. After dispensing some justice, I killed the last Deathclaw I'd encounter and crawled into Virgil's cave. And that's not a euphemism for something. He told me that the Institute uses coursers, which are basically synth Spartans, doing nothing but combat for the entirety of their sad, short lives. And I had to go kill one for a chip inside of his head, so I could hijack the Institute's teleporter to beam me inside instead of the courser. One such courser was having his filthy way with some gunner mercenaries inside of Green Tech Genetics. Unfortunately for the gunners, the ones that survived the courser's rampage were standing in between me and the outlaw. Safe to say, they were having a really bad day. After a while of me permanently retiring a bunch of gunners, I reached the Rocketeer section and started sniping. All until the Rocketeer showed up, just as I went to defuse a mine, who miraculously shot a rocket between my legs.
Oh my.
It's also not a euphemism for some. Anyway, the rocket subsequently just barely missed the floor I was standing on and detonated right behind me. Phew, I don't think that could have been any closer. Cause let me tell you, when I saw that rocket coming straight for me, I was sure I was dead. Well, time to develop a god complex. I'm definitely smiting enough people to support that mental state. At the top floor, I met with the courser and made it brief.
That's not why I'm here. What do you want? I need what's in your head. That you cannot have.
With the chip in hand, I needed a way to decode it. So I made contact with the Railroad, who had the means to do so.
Stop. I'm Desdemona, and I'm the leader of the Railroad.
Yeah, we're all friends now. Let's skip to the part where you help.
Why are you here?
I need a courser chip decoded.
We're letting you into our headquarters.
With me being let into their inner circle, I took a few jobs for them to see how they operated. To know thine potential enemy. And as a bonus, I'd later get the ability to make my armor much better than it is now. Which may or may not have been the real reason for helping them. My first mission meant that Deacon and I had to go to the Railroad's former HQ. First, I decided to clear the front door. But while I was sneaky enough that I didn't detonate landmines at this point, Deacon was not. Anyway, after Deacon didn't end up killing me during the next attempt, not because he didn't want to, but because he was physically unable to, we headed inside using the stealthy backdoor route. In the tight tunnels of their old base, I crept through the shadows like a rat, pouncing on my enemies when they least expected it. This was until I reached a large room, where there were a few too many enemies to remain undetected. His rifle bolts very slowly. After that, I only had to engage in a little bit of mop-up of the remaining synths, after which we arrived at the Railroad's vault. Inside, I grabbed the mystery device and was given a hand cannon?
Tommy would want you to have his hand cannon.
That's not a hand cannon. That's a hand cannon. After doing a bunch of bitch work for the Railroad, I found plans to make ballistic weave for my armor. So I immediately made my armor actually as good as it looked. Next, I returned to Virgil, who gave me teleporter plans. But now, I actually needed to build the blessed thing. The railroad could be used for this. I didn't want to make them more powerful. Having run out of options for building a teleporter and for fighting the Institute, however,
I can deny it no longer!
I needed to levy an army of my own. So I went to Preston, whom I rescued a while ago, for help. He agreed to help. But first, he needed me to take care of raiders that were harassing settlements receptive to joining a coalition together. So I decided to solve the problem at its source. A place called Nuka World was absolutely overrun with raiders, slavers, and every other type of criminal occupation that the NCR and the Rangers especially vowed to put an end to. After clearing the route to Nuka World, I hopped aboard the monorail, appreciated the scenery, and was forced through the gauntlet of suffering.
Loctite.
Fuck it!
After a while, I arrived at the final challenge.
Don't look like much.
Really? We looking at the same guy here? To defeat this guy, I was given a squirt gun to short-circuit his power armor. Well, a ranger will use what he must to complete his mission. He isn't autistic as fuck, you know. And so, the power-armored menace became nothing more but another notch on my barrel. The second that this filth opened the door to let me out, it was time to engage in a methodical yet brutal killing frenzy without equal. And let me tell you, the consumption of chems had never been higher. Psycho, Psycho Buff, Buff Out, Medex, some XL, Mentats, Orange Mentats, loads of consumable meats, and finally an ocean freighter's worth of jets.
Well, now that is a very small drop in a very, very large bucket of drugs.
Now, the NCR has a pretty tight chem policy, but the military, and especially the Rangers, are allowed to take combat stims. Though this much maybe wasn't what they had in mind. But it was necessary like you wouldn't believe. Nuka World was under the rule of 3 major gangs. The Animalistic Pack, the money-hungry Operators, and the edgy, morbid Disciples. After clearing the market, I started off with the first gang, the Pack. And let me tell you, never had I died this much in, well, ever. I shit you not, I died nothing short of 20 plus times during all of this. Now I could have been very cowardly and have hidden behind cover for 90% of the time and occasionally take a pot shot at the enemy. But that would have been lame. So I had to expose my delicate flesh to the hard-hitting enemy guns. Also, some of their headgear really wasn't helping. Having cleared those door campers, known as the Pack, with great effort, I might add, I made my way to the Operators' HQ, where I wasn't even allowed into the building before being embroiled in another large gunfight. I sure was glad that I'd stocked up on plenty of ammo at this point. Yeah, plenty of ammo, but nowhere near enough jet. When I entered the Operators' HQ, it started off pretty well, but the 3 bosses inside were insanely tough. The Big Iron in combination with all the chems could one-tap raiders in the face. But look at how much it took to kill those leaders. For the last one, I ran completely dry on jet, so I had to quick peek her to death. Anyway, I had to go back for a refill on jet, and went to the final gang's HQ. The Edgelords, or Disciples. I rushed inside with the assault rifle, and saw the 3 bosses waiting for me at the door. It wasn't all bad though. The assault rifle made it pretty hard to see their faces because of the amount of blood spilling out of them. While one idiot decided to bring a knife to a gunfight.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
After dropping the last leader, all that was left to do was some mop-up. With not a single raider remaining, I freed the slaves.
I can't believe it.
You and the other traders were being treated like slaves. I had to put an end to it.
The OG Rangers would be proud of me. And so, I had brought the settlements of the Commonwealth under our banner. Our banner. Next, it was time to calm down a little. So I went on a leisure hunting trip. With a 50 cal. To claim an HQ for the NCR's newly established Eastern Ward. After a while, however, Mama Bear showed up. After killing the Mother Queen, we'd secured the fortress, recruited more soldiers for our army, and were finally ready to build a teleporter. Once inside, I took the liberty to download a blueprint of the Institute from their mainframe. Having found a way in for our army to invade the Institute, I handed them a formal declaration of war, and left the Institute. They must have been eyeing us up for a while though, because not much later, we were already being invaded. 'Twas a good thing that we too had been preparing for an all-out war. And so the fortress was brimming with newly levied NCR troopers, equipped with surface rifles, shotguns, sniper rifles, and even one other ranger with an anti-materiel rifle. Another solid life choice was how I had collected heaps of mines from both the Nuka World Raiders and the fortress's armory. In total, I planted around 60 of them all around the fortress, a lesson that I learned after the last time. This resulted in many of the robotic synths losing their legs.
My leg!
Aeons away from the fort, rendering them unable to contribute to the fight. To circumvent this problem, the eggheads of the Institute came up with a bright plan. which was to occasionally teleport some synths in the middle of the fortress, where they'd be surrounded by my soldiers. Here's why that was a bad idea. Safe to say, the combination of a small army, a minefield, and numero uno sent all the synths to roboty hell. After defeating the Institute's onslaught whilst taking 0 casualties of our own due to me caring for my soldiers and giving them ballistic weave armor upgrades, we went on the offensive. The Institute's blueprint that I downloaded revealed the way in through an old sewer pipe. This eventually led me to the teleporter relay, where I brought in my army. Here, Preston handed me a bomb with which to blow up the Institute's main reactor. We would also allow anyone who wanted to leave the doomed Institute to get out, because we were the good guys. Unfortunately, the main elevator downstairs was locked down, and since blowing it up and rappelling down like absolute and little suicidal badasses by dropping down into a kill box, we took the long way around, starting with old robotics. After storming our way through old robotics, I killed a combatant. You can tell me that he wasn't reaching for something. Anyway, apparently, my assault rifle's drum mag didn't have enough bullets inside. Good thing that my armor could actually take a few hits. Later, the Institute unleashed their gorillas, and one of them almost did a somersault. Aw, so close. Following that, I reached the main lobby, where I immediately started wildly shooting in the general direction of my enemies with the shotgun, before switching to the assault rifle again, and getting a little overzealous. Having cleared the lobby, I set off the evacuation alarm for the people of the Institute and made my way to the reactor room. When I arrived there were still a few enemies staunchly fighting for a lost cause, so I quickly switched between my weapons like a professional and cleared the place out. After planting the bomb, we teleported out and put an end to the Commonwealth's internal threats. With the Institute gone, all we needed to do now was deal with the external threat of the Brotherhood of Steel. So I ordered an artillery strike on their blimp.
General, all the settlements are reporting in. We're ready to fire at the Brotherhood airship on your order.
Give the signal to open fire.
Yes, sir.
Repeat. Fire for effect.
The Brotherhood, being the Brotherhood though, didn't know when they were beaten, and threw every remaining resource they had at our fortress with an uncoordinated attack. To show them how terribly outmatched they were, I sniped the pilot out of his seat of the first chopper I saw. followed by me riddling an engine full of fiery holes for the second one straight after. Anyone who survived the crash wouldn't stop their aggression, however, and so we wouldn't be taking any prisoners today. Except for maybe this guy. That was a war crime. Now, despite having completed an entire campaign at this point, there were still parts of this battle where I found myself in a bit of a pickle. Luckily, I had plenty of tools available to help me survive. From sniping their gunners out of their choppers, to abusing the hell out of Jet and Vats. Again. The scariest thing I would encounter were knights that were so tough that they required more than one shot of the big iron to the dome, even though I had completely maxed out my skills with the pistol. Yet this wouldn't save them from being turned into Beyblades. Also, as I was shooting down choppers left, right and center, it appeared that one unlucky Brotherhood knight had gotten himself stuck in a tree as he fell down from the sky. So I shot him and made him fall down like a sack of potatoes. I'll be here all week, folks. As the final few choppers were being shot down and crashing into the sea, the survivors were trying to stumble their way out of their watery graves. But I had a few friends that would put them under. After killing the last Brotherhood soldier, I twirled that big iron one last time and celebrated our total victory in the Commonwealth, while honoring those that made the ultimate sacrifice. And so ends our mission, with the Commonwealth's future looking bright under NCR rule. As is tradition, you can find links to the mods used in this video in the description, so that you can spread the glory and bureaucracy of the NCR to the East Coast. Anyway, I thank you for watching, and until the next one, ciao!